Course 105 Introduction to Comparative Government and Politics की block ahum suba themes for comparative analysis का Unit 9 Parliamentary Supremacy and the Rule of Law in the United Kingdom हाइदना मसी Unit 9 सिगी अहानबा सरो कोई मिननबा तौसी Unit 9 दा अखोना नाइनगदोरसि मरुओइना मागी टॉपिक्स दा पीरिसि Parliamentary Supremacy हाइबनी अखोना खांगी मदु United Kingdom हाइदना अखोना खंगरिबा सिगुम्बा लेबासदा parliamentary form of government ma ko democratic form of government ma magi lei adana parliament sigi magi yamna chauraba thodang ma haidane magi mana kwaidagi supreme authority oi ba haidane United Kingdom ni gena sida adana haiba United Kingdom sida magi parliament si kaya kaya mating manga leibano aduga masi karamna summa phiram amada lengalon gi sana Congress is minor or a no hybrid again, see a pregnant in Introduction the PDZ British parliamentary system was extrapolated in different colonial countries, often with contextual modifications. Either Matamamada Numit Taba Kovalati Haidana, British Empire, see either Makoina, William Langat, Sandopasi, Loimapu, and Malim, Tuanamba. Continentsingda paksana sandoga leibina se Pacific da buhaigera adagi Indian Ocean region ko Indian subcontinent ki region da buhaigera Africa da buhaigera swai tawna ko gi maleng gi paksa awra pham kya asida magi lelam se sandoga leiramani na ko gi mayam su khambi ba mai tawna sa gi ko gi international time zone ko international deadline ga na ko ko sumba Pungsing Kaido Paidare, Magi Standard Time Sigan of Canada. India, the Numita, given Matamida, a top of Mohon Gradu, the Hogi, Moran, Matamu. Maitodana Numita over Lake British Empire, Sugumba, William Lenga, Sandova, Maleba, Amada, Zagi, Maha, Mamaki, colonialism, Nika, Madugi, Legacy, Mo in Avitare. Haiba leibak khudimangna British na palamba loi chalaga palamba leibak khudimangna chagasu leibak kyamna magi parliamentary system aji lamdugi magi sunaba chanaba mawongda semdok semjin tawya kanda masi sanabagi keno ma pagi tosilama pagi nauna ningkha tamba duguba British ki colony oramba leibak singsda pagi pakhalakhiba aduna Masigi Maruibasi, Masidagi Hore Avatare, British parliamentary system, the Panaka, the Maka Kangado, no high sea, and the Maling, including a quite for the Republic of India, Masidasu 1947, the Hora Pandan as I Ninkata Maba, India, the soon as I parliamentary system, doing among the soup, Britiski, Langawan, the soup, Tamna Masigi, Sanakamon Kama, India, the Salakika, and the book. Parliamentary system si masi karai dei kamai lakhi no hai kanda hai bo wai parliament nai wasi when the French word parler meaning to speak hai dana ko parler have a French ki wai sing sai di wangang ba to speak na dana kana go na na parliament hai wasi ko talking soft hai di wangang bam mayam to laga wari sabam ni na na ko mean to usul lai ko Fazadaba Wai hires Masai Singati Parliament IC, Mayamgi, Wangangbum, Wakanabum, Madumba, Lepuman Yagatari. Parliament initially implied the practice of monarchs summoning wise advisors for a discussion on the affairs of state. Hambada Parliamency, Mintoramizi, Nasidi, Wagi, Wantong Malabasing, Magi, Levalevaki Parliament, House, and Yam, Masangai, Wagi, Singlema, building Kiama Sagalakanda. Section the Nax level label Sumum Pumpsing. Masumaina poetry in the Hambada, Sanaramagi Matuna Parliament, I will see Lamduda Toweba. Monarchs in Sina, Masagi, wise advisors, Nebaki, Tabakoram Sinda, affairs of the state, Watana Tignaviaba, Wakalo Sing Leba, wise advisors for Potaro Singasi. Khana naina logida makta kari tawga kamai tawga ko gi phagani yena buna sumaina ko da athina tawpa lansinga ropalare masi kamai no ko na diplomacy na deal tawdra masi lan ye koi sem sa ba mathau tagadra gaina haidana koi wat tana tingna na gidamakta sugumba haising aba wakalo singa ba kokta mising si koi kokhala kana thanaba koi parliament sa ha. Sovereignty is broadly understood as the supreme authority over a particular territorial jurisdiction. Aduga mu masai sovereignty habisina akoina mayamna sarana akoina khanarisi supreme authority over a particular territorial jurisdiction aidra magi territory ama leba amagi magi ngamkai yatho aba leba amagi madugi manungda magi territorial jurisdiction da ngamkai dogi manungda mana ke do supreme authority we aduna supreme authority hadi mana khwaidagi makok thongba adugumba khwaidagi tawbu ngamba haina tare supreme authority se ba aduna haiba lam amagi magi ngamkhai gi manung sida adugi phiba nung sida asai khwaidagi tawbu ngamba supreme authority du aduguni kana sovereignty haidana khana se ba. Internal sovereignty is unhindered and unchallenged authority over a population without being blocked or caused by another entity. Aduga internal sovereignty ekoina say external sovereignty, internal sovereignty adana koina ani thona naina baga yeng de ya da matang sulai ko adana sai gi ekoina sovereignty haraga di sai gi particular territory amagi mathakta sai paidagi tawungamba aje mana haraga loina sakadaba adugumagi magi authority duni sai sovereignty haisi ko adama sai India dasu magi India gi leiba lenga sina magi sovereignty exercise sovereignty adana India gi magi foreign policy adagi magi economic policy tonga ba social welfare kai every day no man say the magi sovereign authorities na exercise sovereignty powers adana internal sovereignty habisina mo sai unhindered and unchallenged authority over a population without being blocked or caused by another entity. Atopa kanagumba amagi koigi kayani koigi kuzin tharang ko magi ayen apan iba yaudana sagi kayani koigi nioi kanglu amagi haba tare population ko ni group amagi ni kanglu amagi mathakta kanagumba amata gi ayetpa apanba sinaba yaudana sagi authority ma exercise torba do internal sovereignty wedana leba ma gi sovereignty har pakanda koina ma internal sovereignty internal dimension oduga external dimension of sovereignty hadana ni chilegani external dimension of sovereignty da koina ma gi national defense ki wafam pa aduga masagi foreign policy ki kari suguma myam si ko Britain's political system is unitary while the USA has shared internal sovereignty. Britain ki laiba United Kingdom laiba political systems is unitary way havani magi ngasai my sovereign authorities e wagi magi supreme authority weba United Kingdom ki my parliament se masisna supai pai ba adi adida punama wagi magi power se my authority ki tungna pham oi ba haidare aduna matoi ba body amada authority amada masai gi magi power se concentrate oi adu gi system ni political system je Britain lai se aduga USA da lai jina magi federal gi norms and principles nga na sapanina USA gi au ba state sigi manungda magi tongan ba federal laws aduga magi state to you ba magi law side na side gi manada balai aduga federal authority na side gi hai ba state sigi particular state amagi magi se Ohio bo hai su ba ni ko gi Texas bo hai su smai ta na magi lai state sigi magi internal sovereignty masi na side gi khara space kar lai aduida na side gi federal authority of the United States of America na ko putting the maya na magi share internal sovereignty is side gi share to why that federal authorities ga side gi magi state gi The British Parliament enjoys supreme and ultimate lawmaking authority. Masida ngasai unitary system lai have sida ngasai British Parliament sina khwaidagi magi supreme authority ni kogi law sem na bi waleba ma lenga kogi kanglon sem sida khwaidagi hwang ba thaki ko kobungamba British Parliament sina oire The eminent constitutionalist A.V. Dicey noted with respect to British parliamentary system, Parliament has under the English Constitution the right to make or unmake any law whatsoever, and further no person or body is recognized by the law of England as having a right to override or set aside the legislation of Parliament. Aduna kogi masang nairaba adugumba constitutional expert haibutare constitutionalist A.V. Dicey haiba nupa asina mana British parliamentary system zigi matangda phongdoamba wafam mahairagadi Parliament has under the English Constitution. English Constitution je koina kogi written constitution oina laite ko mari conventions ko duguma myam lay adugi sana kanglon sing adugi mari miro kya dagi sana pa mari kogi norms ko principles adu conventions adugumba kogi traditions sugumba myam lay maduna na kogi ngalo kan salai ne na haiba English Constitution sigi makhada Parliament has the right to make or unmake any law whatsoever. Meaning, but law is no Madu Kogi, Sanahan Bazumami, Sanahan of Sumamian. And over law must have a Sana Bazu Parliament and me and the Hanalemba law, Sanahala law have an unmake over Sumami. And further, no person or body is recognized by the law of England as having a right to override or set aside the legislation of Parliament. Haiba Parliaments now. Lauropa mana semakpa law mana lauropa law masana roi haidana masagi lauropa firem na singbasida masagi kana gumma miyoi amatana natraga atopa body amatana ayani ba masigumba parliament na laureiba parliament na thangaiba konthang parliament na semaiba law parliament na sana roi na lauthaiba law du madu yadi haidana madu bu namhat pangamba override to ba ngamba madu bu sana handaba ngamba namat pangamba du makana ba miyoi amana chakana body amata ko agi England laite ko law in the recognized to them habadi parliament in the supreme authority ni habani ebi dicing thamini wise meaning of parliamentary supremacy aduna ngasai unit 9 ko topic siga su amsuna na parliamentary supremacy is kaino masina hai is kaino habasi Magi one of the doctrine of parliamentary sovereignty implies that the parliament is the absolute or the highest lawmaking authority in Britain. Masi hanjan nanjan lai Britain ki context ta magi supreme authority highest lawmaking authority se parliament ni habisi masi doctrine of parliamentary sovereignty is na left. The parliament's judiciary powers enable it to legislate amend or repeal any law without being silenced, veto, or overridden by any other domestic person or body of persons in the country. Alang asagi daisin hai wadu di londa gi time parliament na enjoy toriba magi thagai sengba asagi magi judiciary powers si masina kari ngamhan geu ganda parliament na law je sembagi legislate tobagi namon the power lay law du semdopa amend tobagi power lay aduga madu Sanandaba Muthatpagi power, repeal the power Sulai Kanagama Amatana, Singnaba, Nataga Madu, Yaro Hadana, Thingba Piba, Aduga, Makoina Logo, whatever you Namhalaga, Kayani, the Mina, Ano Tungan Breno, Mahada, Sanakano, and the same with Surumba, Kanagama, Mio Yamata, have the king, Wagera, Queen, Wagera, any other body farm. Haiba, the Rashida, United Kingdom still like the Army, Parliament. The supreme authority, highest authority in terms of making law either parliament. And then John Liu di law me either a pronunciation kita kan oh ini masih French ki mamin ni maxi Geneva da popa da to masana ba bagi British ki bagi jurist sama su ba da ba yo mana John Liu na haji magi proverbial expression of parliamentary supremacy that it is a fundamental principle with English lawyers that parliament can do everything but make a woman a man and a man a woman. Aduna kasai man aini si amna bagi British ki parliamentary system da lai ba posi bagi man het to ge khanna se boy ngam se parliament can do everything man het to ge khanna se boy na parliament se to ngam Haibuani magi do's and don'ts. Yeah, there was second balances. Like any magi ethical questions. convention si kari adubu parliament sina anything mana tawningbasi koigi loinama tawbu ngami mana ngamdaba haibabu nupise nupa onthokpa natra nupa nupi onthokpa aduda mangare ngamdaba haibadi English ki laiba system sida magi parliament sina adu mati supreme authority wa haibse unchallenged ko kayani koigi kanagumamta laite sinida magi mathak. The passage of the Septennial Act, which extended the legal duration of the then existing House of Commons from 3 to 7 years and thereby overextending the duration of mandate given to those representatives by the British electorate themselves. Masigi sabsara kudam ama haibabu kaina kan Septennial Act hadana kogi magi House of Commons ki hana sanaramba sahi ahumni tamji sahi tare sangopagi surumba e ama pass oduba masdeida saigi parliament sina pass tawani haiba ek se dana parliament sina kedoba hana British electorate singina both hadaraga khalapadi House of Commons ki representatives mogi MP secretary kogi masi sahi ahum ki khalapane ba do parliament na konanda magi nova kogi sana tanglo nama makoina sahi tare da sangdo kogi masi ki Septennial Agency pass tawbo masina tai madodi saigi miyam jina mandate se pigraba matung sudaida semakpa kogi parliament sina kaigumba kogi mathau tare khalagadi ngasai hana lagmiba kogi sana kangon pathap singsi kogi hongdo kanda ba mentor kanda ngasai 3 years duration to 7 years to pana singsuga nang sido pangtopa ngami aduna masina ngami sina taise kana kana magi parliamentary supremacy gu wa family. Dicey knows 3 traits of parliamentary sovereignty in England. England da laiba parliamentary sovereignty ki magi Momato Masatsi Ngasai mana Maroina Hong Kong Kaidika Hamada legislative power to amend any law, fundamental or otherwise, in a free and uniform manner. Zaigi Hana Leramba Loma Madon Saigi Central Sentence of Madogi legislative power to Mahaitare for the Samjala Kandaba. Anisu no legal distinction between different kinds of laws as constitutional, fundamental, and others. Amana Saigi distinction like different kinds of laws as constitutional, fundamental, and others. Constitutional or fundamental laws aduga atopa laws aidina kogi ani thona tongan habatare sugumba legal distinction like no authority judicial or otherwise has power to declare void parliamentary act. Parliament pass over egama sagi atopa authority amatana nataga mari judiciary na Sagi Madu Sanaro had an avoid where Nalan void where power. The British Parliament, as the national legislature and a legal sovereign of the country, makes laws, scrutinizes and ensures accountability of the executive, including financial scrutiny, and represents the voices and concerns of British people. The British Parliament national legislature United Kingdom gi magi sanakang semnaba magi laws in semnaba leba highest supreme authority ka aduba national legislature aduga legal sovereign of the country leba ki sanariba angom namsi magi masi semba semdopa madugi power and authority leba aduba sovereign ama oina British Parliament se kedoba masina law semi scrutinizes and ensures accountability of the executive. Executive ki magi executive exercise the power sida kari asoiba ahenba tawada tawba duga aramba tawaga madugi kayani kogi wakat taraga madugi matik chaba kogi lakatan topa kogi legal action sing ha tare madu wakat pa accountability gi wafam sing ko marwana financial scrutiny gi kari Suguma Miyama for the British Parliament and represents the voices and concerns of British people. Parliament in India context is often Lok Sabha and Rai Sabha, Labor Sumaita of the Nangsai, British Miamgi, Makoi Tuanga, Makoi Kolaus, Makoi Aninga Pamba, Kawanu Ayan, Bayan, the Miami can also Tafota Sindito, Novel Lady, have no British Parliament from September. The members of Parliament act as an important channel of communication between the electorate and the government. In the context of the parliamentary system, parliamentary form of government, like the last in the members of parliament na kedo an important channel of communication asagi vote thadaraga makoi bu kahalai ba kogi electorate voters sing aduga asagi government ani gi marakta members of parliament ne amaru ba channel of communication aduna ne akoina asagi manipuri context su akoina india gi parliament da wa ngam ba wakhalosing leiba ko maruan mari pajana seng ngam ba hiba aduna mioising akoina thaba masal taina akoina haiba aduga lobby tauba pressure tauba manipuri interest da thabak paholnaba government india policy da influence tawna arana soimyam accountability fix tawna adu akoina members of parliament si amna maru oi adana sumai tawna maikoina ekoigi representative oina parliament sakrakanda ekoigi aning apa masin maikoina ada puraga na phongdopa masigi channel of communications ni mp singna oi pangthokadoruse ka evolution of the doctrine of parliamentary supremacy aduga parliamentary supremacy gi doctrine si masi kamai tawna horakhibano habigi magi concept masi akoy amu khimana naina si ka in the British system of parliamentary democracy the head of the state is the monarch while the head of the government is elected and comes from the parliament when makogi British parliamentary system da koi prime minister na makogi head of the government aduga masagi head of the state na kanana kana makogi monarch ni pa saigi admai tawna koigi queen wagera king wagera makogi kenosi British ki parliamentary democracy da moju monarchy si aduma maintain taw thamakanda pa constitutional monarchy ki system ama makogi sanai pa adugi model gani koigi manipur da 1947 gi pa manipur constitution act da koigi Jasindra Mahal koigi monarch waganda koigi constitutional monarchy ki system ama da mana sangala misiko. The four phases of the evolution of British Parliament, according to Professor Mayer Grant, British Parliament sing asi uriba phibam sima akogi hektama porlauna tarapana te kana gomno khragi kokta gi puthuraga hekta semapana te masi yamna matam sangna mioi kaya mirol kaya na akogi thang te mai paidana hana sunaraga imuna mutana matunda akogi matam gi ano thang kaya semdo semjen hando hajen to matunda masi film se line dana masi gi lairiba suguma British Parliament gi system asi wairana buhana buda saranga pagi phase mari tona pagi Professor Mayer Grant khaidoga nai pamari nai amu yengsi hamba phase the highest in middle ages the parliament was represented only through house of lords hamba pagi house of lords dana masi sodama lai pagi British Parliament no house of lords saranga pagi representative oiba house of commons saranga pamsai elected ni house of commons na house of lords na elected origin my hereditary will be canon adana masi makhata nainakani and middle ages ki matam sida di parliament si only house of lords na pagi phamamel during the Saxon times it comprised of wise men often including the religious as bishops etc and political advisors earls and knights adana ngasai ahambada middle ages ta house of lords katan phamamadagi pagi sections ki time pagi period amani historical period amani sida ngasai house of lords da wise men maruina pagi wise men ai pagi wakalosing leiba pagi machau ainau ba tare pagi londa mai sini aduga maruina mai si religious leaders sing pagi masang na ba mai kai kon na ba asumba setani haidin loba sona yabane na loba suguma miyosing dina house of lords ta khang ai mai so mai no ko phamami aduga mai gumba political kayani atoba political advisors pagi thamnai ba koi kharaga pulaga pagi house of lords ko chalai ra section ki matam adagi di Magna Carta se ke doba 1215 sida Magna Carta se pagi sanaga ba matung da di karidagi sanara inaganda as a result of barons resistance to the policy of excessive taxes imposition by the monarch ningthauna salan yama sonare salan sona ba ida bu sen yaw da yade mi ju sibeni mi sibudana tana pai da thang ten ku su kolai ma am ni sa ba thap ba madu lamban sem ba sa ba ma am su la na ida bu sen nam sang ba na madu gi namna bu hana ba da ko tax se adu mati khongai pai da ya pai manipuri ju method 2023 dagi ira ama la ju dagi ko gi yam dagi sen di mateng na traga ma yam dagi ko gi ꯈꯣꯡꯒꯠꯂꯤꯕ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯇꯤꯛ ꯌꯥꯝꯃꯤ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯦꯟꯃꯤꯠꯂꯣꯟꯁꯨ ꯁꯣꯛꯑꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯈꯣꯝꯒꯠꯂꯤꯕ ꯁꯦꯟꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯂꯥꯟꯒꯤ ꯇꯧꯗꯕ ꯌꯥꯗꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯇꯤꯛ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯋꯥꯅꯩ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯗꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯕꯦꯔꯣꯟꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧꯅ ꯀꯥ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯇꯦꯛꯁ ꯈꯖꯅꯥꯁꯦ ꯈꯣꯝꯒꯠꯂꯒ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯆꯠꯊꯔꯛꯄ ꯑꯁꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯄꯣꯂꯤꯁꯤ ꯑꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯥꯌꯣꯛꯇ ꯂꯦꯞꯄꯛꯄꯗꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯦꯒꯅꯥ ꯀꯥꯔꯇꯥꯁꯤ 1215 ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯎꯊꯣꯛꯄꯅꯤ. The 13th century also witnessed the creation of the commons as costly wars weighed heavily on extensive tax collections not only from the lords but also the free men of the country. 13th century ꯁ꯭ꯋꯥꯏꯁꯤꯗꯩꯗ ꯑꯍꯣꯡꯕ ꯈꯔ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯂꯥꯛꯑꯦꯀꯣ ꯃꯦꯒꯅꯥ ꯀꯥꯔꯇꯥꯒꯤ ꯁ꯭ꯋꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯦꯔꯦꯠꯁꯤꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯀꯩꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯃꯁꯤꯗꯩꯗ ꯂꯥꯛꯏꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯍꯥꯎꯁ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯀꯃꯟꯁꯁꯦ ꯐꯣꯔꯝ ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯑꯃ ꯍꯥꯏꯇꯥꯔꯦ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯆꯠꯅ ꯈꯨꯟꯅꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯀꯩ ꯍꯥꯏꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯁꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯆꯠꯅꯕꯤ ꯑꯃ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯨꯝ ꯊꯣꯛꯂꯛꯄ ꯍꯧꯔꯛꯄꯒꯤ ꯃꯑꯣꯡꯅꯤ. As costly wars weighed heavily on extensive tax collections not only from the lords but also the free men of the country. ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯍꯥꯟꯕꯗꯗꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯣꯔꯗꯁꯤꯡ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯐꯝꯅꯥꯏꯕ ꯌꯥꯏꯇꯣꯡ ꯈꯝꯗꯣꯡꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯅꯥꯏꯁ ꯑꯔꯜꯁꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯅꯆꯤꯡꯕ ꯁꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯗꯒꯤ ꯇꯦꯛꯁꯁꯦ ꯈꯣꯝꯒꯠꯂꯝꯕꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯀꯣꯟꯅꯊꯪꯗꯗꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯟꯁꯦ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯁꯣꯛꯅꯔꯛꯄꯁꯤꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯇꯦꯛꯁꯁꯦ ꯈꯣꯝꯒꯠꯇꯕ ꯌꯥꯗꯕꯗꯒꯤ ꯇꯦꯛꯁ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯈꯣꯝꯒꯠꯅꯕ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯔꯛꯄꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯣꯔꯗꯁꯤꯡꯗꯒꯤ ꯈꯛꯇ ꯅꯠꯇꯕꯗ ꯇꯦꯛꯁꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯐ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯃꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯗ ꯀꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯐ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯃꯦꯟ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯀꯟꯁꯦꯞ ꯑꯃ ꯊꯣꯛꯂꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯦꯕ 13th century ꯁ꯭ꯋꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤꯀꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯀꯃꯟꯁ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤ ꯀꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤ ꯊꯣꯛꯂꯛꯀꯗꯣꯏꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯁꯦ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯐ꯭री ꯃꯦꯟꯁꯤꯡꯗꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯣꯏꯅꯤ. ꯐ꯭री ꯃꯦꯟꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯁꯥꯒꯤ ꯔꯥꯏꯠꯁꯅꯆꯤꯡꯕ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯔꯁꯥꯏꯁ ꯑꯦꯟꯖꯣꯏ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯂꯤꯕꯔꯇꯤ ꯐꯪꯕ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏ ꯀꯥꯡꯂꯨꯞꯁꯤꯡ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯣꯏꯅꯤ. ꯑꯗꯣ ꯃꯤ ꯈꯨꯗꯤꯡꯃꯛꯇꯤ ꯃꯇꯝꯗꯨꯗ ꯐ꯭री ꯃꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯣꯏꯅꯤ. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯁ꯭ꯂꯦꯕꯔꯤꯒꯤ ꯁꯔꯞꯗꯝꯒꯤ ꯁꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯁꯤꯁꯇꯦꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯀꯣ ꯐꯤꯗꯦꯂꯤꯖꯝꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯁꯤ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯉꯩꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯐ꯭री ꯃꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯉꯝꯗꯦ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯤꯅꯥꯏ ꯅꯩꯊꯥꯡ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯕꯣꯟꯗꯦꯜ ꯂꯦꯕꯔꯒꯤ ꯇꯥꯏꯞꯇ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯐꯤꯕꯝ ꯑꯃꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯅꯔꯝꯃꯤ. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯐ꯭री ꯃꯦꯟ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤ ꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯀꯟꯁꯦꯞꯁꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯏꯟꯇꯔꯦꯁꯇꯤꯡ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯑꯃꯅꯤ. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯐ꯭री ꯃꯦꯟꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗꯁꯨ ꯇꯦꯛꯁꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯧꯈꯠꯂꯛꯄ ꯍꯥꯏꯇꯥꯔꯦꯀꯣ. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯥꯡꯁꯤꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯏꯟꯇꯔꯦꯁ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯇꯦꯛ ꯇꯧꯅꯕ ꯁꯦꯐꯒꯥꯔꯗ ꯇꯧꯅꯕ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯃꯣꯠ ꯇꯧꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯔꯛꯄꯗꯒꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯍꯥꯎꯁ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯀꯃꯟꯁꯀꯤ ꯄꯣꯠꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯁꯦꯝꯒꯠꯂꯛꯇꯣꯏꯅꯤ. This tax obligation was supplemented with some sort of limited right of representation. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯐ꯭री ꯃꯦꯟꯁꯤꯡꯗꯁꯨ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯇꯦꯛꯁ ꯄꯤꯌꯨ ꯑꯍꯥꯟꯕꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯇꯦꯛꯁꯀꯤ ꯔꯦꯖꯤꯝꯁꯤꯅ ꯀꯣꯟꯁꯤꯜꯂꯝꯗꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯇꯦꯛꯁ ꯊꯤꯗꯕ ꯌꯥꯔꯛꯇꯕꯒꯤ ꯐꯤꯕꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯥꯛꯄꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤꯁꯨ ꯂꯤꯃꯤꯇꯦꯠ ꯔꯥꯏꯠ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯔꯤꯄ꯭ꯔꯖꯦꯟꯇꯦꯁꯟ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤꯁꯨ ꯃꯤꯍꯨꯠ ꯊꯥꯔꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯗ ꯐꯝꯕꯒꯤ ꯈꯟꯅ ꯅꯩꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯑꯐ ꯐꯠꯇ ꯇꯥꯟꯅꯕꯝ ꯋꯥ ꯉꯥꯡꯐꯝ ꯋꯥꯔꯤ ꯁꯥꯐꯝꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯩꯄꯨꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤꯁꯨ ꯃꯤꯍꯨꯠ ꯊꯥꯕꯒꯤ limited right ꯑꯃ ꯄꯤꯕ ꯍꯧꯔꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ. This county elected 4 knights to Westminster. Westminster ꯍꯥꯏꯁꯦ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯌꯨꯅꯥꯏꯇꯦꯠ ꯀꯤꯡꯗꯝꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯁꯤꯅꯤ. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯀꯥꯎꯟꯇꯤ ꯈꯨꯗꯤꯡꯃꯛꯇꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯐꯝꯅꯥꯏꯕ ꯅꯥꯏꯠꯁ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯐꯝꯅꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯔꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯚꯣꯠ ꯊꯥꯗꯔꯒ ꯃꯤꯍꯨꯠ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯈꯟꯕꯒꯤ ꯁꯤꯁꯇꯦꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯍꯧꯗꯣꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ. The Federal Council became more representative with 3 major factions being the clergy, the barons, and the commoners. ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯐꯦꯗꯔꯦꯜ ꯀꯥꯎꯟꯁꯤꯜꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯔꯤꯄ꯭ꯔꯖꯦꯟꯇꯦꯇꯤꯚ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯤꯕ ꯄꯣꯄꯨꯂꯦꯁꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯕꯨ ꯔꯤꯄ꯭ꯔꯖꯦꯟ ꯇꯧꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏ ꯀꯥꯡꯂꯨꯞꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯌꯥꯏꯇꯣꯡ ꯈꯝꯗꯣꯡꯕ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯀ꯭ꯂꯔꯖꯤꯃꯦꯟꯒꯨꯝꯕꯀꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯆꯔꯆ ꯔꯤꯂꯤꯖꯤꯌꯁ ꯂꯤꯗꯔꯁꯤꯡ ꯑꯗꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯅꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯅꯥꯏꯠꯁ ꯑꯥꯔꯜꯁ ꯀꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯐꯤꯗꯦꯜ ꯂꯣꯁꯀꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯇꯥꯔꯦꯀꯣ ꯁꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯊꯛꯇ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯌꯥꯏꯇꯣꯟ ꯈꯝꯗꯣꯡꯕꯁꯤꯡ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯅꯤ ꯑꯍꯥꯟꯕꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯤꯁꯤꯀꯣ ꯀ꯭ꯂꯔꯖꯤ ꯗ ꯕꯦꯔꯣꯟꯁ ꯀꯥꯏꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯩꯗꯤ ꯀꯃꯅꯔꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯃꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯤꯄ꯭ꯔꯖꯦꯟꯇꯦꯁꯟꯒꯤ ꯄꯣꯠ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯥꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯦꯕꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ representative oil federal councils. The 14th century witnessed a gradual separation of the two chambers or houses into the House of Lords and the House of Commons. 14th century gradual separation of the two chambers of the houses. House of Lords House of Commons lana khaidoraba kanda ngasai House of Commons dana kana oina lakani kana both other khalakani aduga both other dabidana kana House of Lords fangani ka sigi wafam si hena mayegana 14th century da gi ka tara mai su sai sa ni ko kan prayer ani suba phase na kogi 1485 tagi na 17th century gi sai gi takak sibani kogi parliamentary British ki kogi British ki parliamentary revolution gi my history da ba Parliamentary evolution during this period was characterized by a tussle of power between the Stuart kings and the parliament for ultimate sovereign authority. Ngасꯥꯏꯒꯤ power struggle ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏꯕꯒꯤ ꯈꯨꯟꯅꯥꯏꯗ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯇꯣꯏꯅ ꯊꯣꯛꯄ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯑꯃꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯌꯨꯅꯤꯚꯔꯁꯦꯜ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯏ ꯃꯥꯂꯦꯝꯒꯤ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯀꯌꯥꯗ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯔꯤꯕ ꯁꯥ ꯂꯥꯟꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯊꯣꯛ ꯂꯥꯟꯊꯣꯛ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯨꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯋꯔ ꯁ꯭ꯇ꯭ꯔꯒꯜꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯁꯤꯅꯤ ꯇꯁꯜ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯄꯥꯋꯔꯁꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯗꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯇꯔꯤ ꯏꯚꯣꯂꯨꯁꯟꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯦꯀꯦꯟ ꯐꯦꯖꯀꯤ ꯇꯥꯡꯀꯛꯁꯤꯗ ꯁ꯭ꯇꯤꯋꯥꯔꯠ ꯀꯤꯡꯁꯤꯡꯒ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯠꯒ ꯑꯅꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯛꯇ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁꯣꯚꯔꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯊꯣꯔꯤꯇꯤꯁꯦ ꯀꯅꯥꯅ ꯈ꯭ꯋꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤ ꯃꯊꯛ ꯊꯣꯡꯕ ꯑꯣꯏꯕꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯒꯤ ꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯋꯔꯁꯤ ꯃꯨꯟꯅꯔꯛꯄ ꯃꯁꯥꯏꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯔꯤꯄ꯭ꯔꯖꯦꯟꯇꯦꯁꯟꯒꯤ ꯄꯣꯠ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯩꯔꯦ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯠꯒꯤ ꯀꯟꯁꯦꯞ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯛꯖꯤꯁ ꯇꯧꯔꯕꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯣꯅꯥꯔꯛꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯀꯤꯡꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯅ divine right of the kings must exercise organda they have the mandate of the heaven to rule over the people having kenosida asat tawga sum lakhi ba du divine right ki theory duni adu makha sathar koina makoisina paidagi makok thongadam ni habigi wafam ma adagi amana ngasai gi miyam gi interest ki miyam gi mihutna sebak pasu ma parliament gi kenoma kana nenabam phabata taso tasin gi debate ki discussion ki Roma sumaina sema pa adana aniji ki marakta sovereign authority je kanana oida bu no habi tasalama pa policing na bono kana tholo pa da ni second phase the kings asserted their divine right to rule which was rejected by the parliament adana parliament na koina ningthau masa masu singi na koina dum pa me do ni habi posi masi ya won moi adana miyam ni mihut sing yauraba aduga maroi ba ki dong dong ba maiso maino sing pa for the religious leaders sing yauraba sugumba parliamentsina yen madugi sovereign authorities e masida legam thoi habigi posi hogi noba yani hogi wakalon pa political ideas manusana da resibi association like the petition of rights was signed in 1628 by Charles I but was not followed and he later dissolved the parliament too and Charles I is Satiba dugumba koigi kenoni koigi British history da haitare ngasai autocratic oiba magi aningba pangthong ba dugumba nithosini marakta amani mahaksina kedoba petition of rights saidana 1628 sida koigi mana sign tawi haidi matamsida miobogi magi hak ki kari ba koigi pigeda uni ga ena keno to pasugumba myam la pujida magi sign ni tokthoi khre thoga su mana madu sanhalam de just maming goina mayam ni ma ki themjana na ba ma to su koigi rights ki keno si mana space ki apiram da ba da adu kona thangadi parliament si bhawa mana sagi dissolve to to ban da koigi mana paidagi kai ani koigi absolute king amagi keno absolute monarch amagi salon mana immerse of the powers centralized of the sigi porama la civil war for 11 years without any parliamentary session maramadana Charles I ki kano sida sugumba pangthang sing sigidagi ngasai sahi 13 leptana koigi civil war si thoktana parliamentary session amada phamdana hadi parliament se dissolve tawra matungda parliament ki kano si koigi magi salon si amu kano thangatna ngamdana ta civil war situation amada trap tawra koigi laigre the civil war established the legal sovereign authority of parliament once and for all haiba misi mina awana kaya khaga sumaina koi laiba sahi 13 sumna sona ki basuma civil war igano sida masi khudula moina kai thora ki haiba di ngasai ki legal sovereign authority of parliament once and for all matam suppagi oina ngasai ki parliament haibusina magi legal sovereign authority ni have the highest authority ni lawmaking authority ni have igano I civil war sigi kudola moina masi ko matam supigi ona koigi Britain history da maina kudol tawana the practice of parliamentary scrutiny of the executive or the government started with parliament gaining the right to punish those royal officials who violated the tax collection rules lagi atopa yam interesting oiba mana the practice of parliamentary scrutiny parliament na mai mapangan je sum pangkhala pagalena na mana scrutiny to ngam kana of the executive or the government started with parliament gaining the right to punish those royal officers ahamada di thowi sana konung ya tare ni thogi sama su sing makoi gi official sing wa makoi na ngasai gi tax collection gi rules sing koi khongau na ba tax hen low ba lakham bawon to pa sang gi hen low ba hen ni na makoi gi oi thok pa su ba corruption gi kari gi wa oi da pa da gi amot pa ha tare masi ni gi amot pa masat na masi mathak ta koi accountability fixed to na gi policy parliament na power si paikhala ka na royal officials sing bu yaw na ha sana ko ni manungda koi anga mathau sing gi thousand makha da lay ba new sing si yaw na ko bu maram sa ba set up pi ba ma na tax collection gi rules sing khongau na gi matang da ko set up pi ba na gi power si parliament na paishala pa masi gi phase na my parliamentary scrutiny of the executive sector masina mo he na parliamentary kenos mapangan si he na kankalak pa matimaya si he na hengalhalak pa ha ba also being the taxpayers, the Commons started asserting their sole propriety against the House of Lords on the right to approve the matters of finance and taxation laid down by the government. Adai saigi koi taxpayers ni na koi na saigi democracy da yam na koi bu yam toina kaw thon ba wafam ma ha ga di koi na so hon ba je ising mai gi kari gi koi tax lo lo bam ti yaw de na sa koi sa re thai ba myang se tax yaw ga si ti do am da lai ti ha ta re si kum si kha ma ya koi na tax thi de ji ba na sa gi ni ba na po po da na si ba pa ba si dai da koi na season ba problem saram everything you know si da koi tax se dum koi na GST ga na si to ri na si ba su no myam si oi na mo yaw na koi myam de taxpayers ni taxpayers in cities of a right lay have that. Tax now so the corner percent and revenue and the salary never now say about the Tolopi, Balam, Same, and high bar CNC, a quite a conquer cable CNC, I pocket, I learned that so I can conquer bar, tax now city, CNC, some seasonary bra, I will be walking on my scrutiny, the one by and a city power see for the House of Commons. Representative whoever members in Haitare, MP sing, common side of free men, Yam sing, Missam Yam Havatare, Amadami Haidana, Missam Yam sings in that, Makoyi Kayani, Makoyi Mu sings in a house of Losti Mayota, Lepakan, and Sagi, Makoi the Zoo, Makoi Katizak, as I get rice, like you don't have a singer by that. Asserting the sole propriety on the right to approve the matters of finance. Finance and taxation की मतान दा मसाई मैं कोई commons की House of Commons की जो authority लगे तो यहाँ भी कोशिश करना कोई ना कुछ से थाने लग पाया तारे का मसीद की कोई अवन बक क्या मसलाए हम सुबह third phase ना कोई 1688 तक ना 1833 फाउल पेरिस निकाला initiation of practices no practices क्या हम हाना सनरम दबा parliamentary supremacy established or nabu can also the hector mapangan the kankala panate trans 11 years civil war the matung lagi sum parliamentary matima hengo tinika adana third phase da sagi toma practices pa marona pagi say party system the doctrine of ministerial responsibility cabinet system public reporting of parliamentary debates haiba wafam sing suguma myam si sana kanon si koi sana bi si koi gi the third phase the glorious revolution of 1688 during the reign of James II established the ultimate sovereignty of the parliament. Ultimate sovereignty of parliament say written in history that kanari matam na khoki haragadi James II na rule of matam da thokiba the glorious revolution of 1688 haiba sigi revolution ki phase da the ultimate sovereignty of the parliament is established. The Bill of Rights in 1689 and reinforced this by advocating for a constitutional or limited monarchy with a supreme parliament. The Bill of Rights 1689 is the amuka hena masibu kayani hena makonsesalan ba haytare masibu amuana nahuna masibu hena mu mapang hapsan giba masibu mu yanari hadana sanaba mine hogi constitutional or limited monarchy advocating for a constitutional or limited monarchy constitutional monarchy hybrid system si koi sanaba hoganda koi constitution gi magi authorities assert tawba da with the Supreme Parliament. Parliament sina kogi mapangan kanba Supreme Authority mo kanda masagi monarch sina magi limited with powers pa. Masih mo na pira kanda masagi hena Parliament di supremacy je Bill of Rights na zo mo hena mo sesalan gramo. Queen in Parliament was declared the sole sovereign in Britain. Aduna Zagi Britain ki sole sovereign Britain ki padagi can also sovereign authorities je kaino hai the Queen in Parliament hai na Parliament je Queen je ga hai the Zagi constitutional monarchy ki system ma ko hi la hai. Powers of Parliament increased at the expenses of royal powers in the matters of new laws and taxes through the Bill of Rights 1689 and the Act of Settlement in 1701. Aduna ngasai Parliament ki powers sum hengkalapa je kana Parliament ki power na hengkalapa je kana ki power na handalin na kana mai royal powers pa ko gi ningthau kon gi lema kon gi mai power sum handalin ni pa maroina anowa law semagi mata tax ki mata Marina Bill of Rights aduga Act of Settlement 1701 sigi kanu se pass over matung dagi di powers of Parliament je dagi mati wangkhala kra. Fourth phase na kaino 1832 dagi na ngasi phawagi Paris na fourth phase aidna damana lawiba. This period is characterized by an institutionalization and a specification of the roles, responsibilities, and the relations between the executive and the legislature on the one hand, and between the two houses on the other. And the high bar fourth phase we can also institutionalization phase. I think magi institutionalization I think say magi norms, principles, values nyamana bind tawaganda magi semba magi institutions in sangup sensiba masida magi second balance process kankalapa aduga roles, responsibilities, and relations between the executive and legislature. Executive legislature ani gi marakta akoina logodaba tholangsing akoigi aduga lainagada mari sing masi myam si akoigi masa khaina akoigi thamak paidara executive na kai tawbi ai tawbi ate legislation na kai tawni tawai executive na kai tawkan legislation na kamaina scrutiny tawbi ani ga kai masi gi sana checks and balances ke pot aduga lena two houses House of Lords and House of Commons ani my roles, responsibilities, relationship, and so on. Masih hena specification nama apa institutionalization tahu fourth phase dan The overall effect is to establish the legal sovereignty of the elected British Parliament as the representative body of the population. Ada nang saya overall effect adi madu apun madu mahai isna kari warga kan to establish the legal sovereignty of the elected British Parliament. Miyamna vote hadaraga miyamna khallaba mihutuna semba dumba British ki Parliament sina Britain ki legal sovereignty exercise that we have is masi overall effect ne. In terms of political sovereignty, the British electorate was held as the authority through the Reforms Act of 1832 when electoral districts were redrawn, though permitted voting rights to a very limited population at the time. Reform Act of 1832, masigi makada the electoral districts in assembly constitutions ka hai sumai to na electoral districts in asi nauna withdraw to matung sida masagi yani British ki electorate se sai what hada ba ya ba British ki citizens in se seasona mai authority, political sovereignty, the sovereignty lies in the hands of the people. People is in fact, as I can electorate to British electorate in political sovereignty, see, as an exercise of Reform Act of 1832 is high again, was the Kazana, my exchange the whole adugo high ba matam sida su masai voting rights phang is the population se yamna yani ko purba population ni track tani hai dare ba. The franchise was extended in later period, especially after 1867. 1867 in matung lagi sum franchise rights is right. Both other rights is some tam some tai the some period pa hai dare. The kona thang da nupi sing sisu both other way aram da lagi both other way avase 1819 lagi di ꯀꯨꯏꯅ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯂꯣꯡ ꯃꯨꯞꯃꯦꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯆꯠꯊꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯅꯨꯄꯤꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯚꯣꯠ ꯊꯥꯗꯕ ꯌꯥꯍꯟꯒꯗꯧꯕꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯏꯀ꯭ꯋꯦꯂꯤꯇꯤ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯖꯦꯟꯗꯔꯒꯤ ꯏꯀ꯭ꯋꯦꯂꯤꯇꯤ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯁꯦꯛꯁꯦꯁꯀꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯁꯤ ꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯐꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯀꯨꯏꯅ ꯈꯣꯡꯖꯪ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯆꯠꯊꯔꯕ ꯃꯇꯨꯡꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯛꯈꯤꯕ ꯄꯣꯠꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯉꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ everything is taken for granted ꯍꯥꯏꯇꯥꯔꯦ ꯅꯨꯄꯤꯁꯤꯡꯅ ꯚꯣꯠ ꯊꯥꯗꯕ ꯌꯥꯕꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯒ ꯍꯛꯀ ꯐꯪꯉꯛꯄꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯝ ꯑꯃꯗꯗꯤ ꯐꯪꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯉꯩꯗꯗꯤ ꯅꯨꯄꯤꯁꯤꯡꯁꯨ ꯐꯪꯍꯟꯒꯗꯧꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯋꯥꯈꯜꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯐꯪꯉꯀꯥꯟꯗꯗꯤ ꯍꯥꯟꯅꯗꯒꯤ ꯁꯨꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯆꯠꯅ ꯂꯩꯕꯗꯧꯅ ꯈꯟꯅꯩꯀꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯔꯥꯏꯠꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤ ꯍꯦꯛꯇ ꯏꯔꯥꯏ ꯂꯥꯏꯅ ꯐꯪꯈꯤꯕ ꯅꯠꯇꯦ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯐꯪꯅꯕ ꯃꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯆꯠꯅꯕꯤꯁꯤ ꯃꯥꯂꯦꯝꯒꯤ ꯁꯤꯟꯕ ꯊꯨꯡꯅ ꯂꯥꯛꯅꯕ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯕꯗ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏ ꯀꯌꯥꯒꯤ ꯁꯦꯀ꯭ꯔꯤꯐꯥꯏꯁ ꯀꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯍꯤꯡ ꯇꯨꯝꯕ ꯆꯥꯕ ꯈꯪꯗꯅ ꯃꯤꯑꯣꯏ ꯃꯩꯁꯥ ꯈꯥꯡꯉꯀꯥꯟꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯐꯪꯈꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯅꯨꯄꯥ ꯅꯨꯄꯤ ꯆꯞ ꯃꯥꯟꯅꯒꯗꯧꯅꯤ ꯚꯣꯠ ꯊꯥꯗꯕꯒꯤ ꯔꯥꯏꯠ ꯂꯩꯒꯗꯧꯅꯤ ꯈꯨꯠꯁꯨꯃꯟ ꯆꯞ ꯃꯥꯟꯅꯅ ꯐꯪꯒꯗꯧꯅꯤꯒ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯁꯤꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯔꯥꯏꯠꯁ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯀꯣ. Recently, there has been more devolution of power through the creation of modern Irish, Scottish, and Welsh regional assemblies or parliaments in order to meet the nationalistic aspirations of British people. British people have the mean the Punsala, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Magi, regional nursing habitat assemblies in Northern Ireland, Scotland, the Wales, Macquarie Mamsi, power is devolved to power devolution, power the British Parliament, Westminster, loina kano control to na tabo unitary system is magi Northern Ireland area gi Scotland gi Wales ki mako mafam assemblies in koina Manipur state assembly have it as my power je pitopa devolve to ba je khaito ba da ko aduga mai salai kunna ba da masi kai nga ha ga ding sai gi mata mamada ko jiksu dum Scotland kambu ko gi ninka tam ya da mai tamba lai ni ko aduga Northern Ireland case yang kuina ko Sinn Féin movement ki ko Irish Revolutionary Army ki ko am saw ba do ba Republic of Ireland na punjan ga daw ni ga ha report yang kana mai lai ba Catholic ki Protestant ki ko na ba su na myam lai na mai koi myam si mai koi di nationalistic aspirations myam si khana na ba na ba madu gi yana ba ma ko forever himina na ba na ba devolution of power si all the three parliaments are elected bodies by Northern Ireland, Scotland, US, elected bodies. They are responsible for certain devolved matters, while the reserved matters are the responsibility of the Westminster Parliament. Center state relations की पोस्ट था वो union list, state list, अदुगा concurrent list and खावे की type में न्याय context है devolved matters has in my state list से मधु वैद्यनी अदुगा union list ले उसने वही reserve list का अदुगी type था वही reserve matters सिंचना Westminster Parliament सिंचना मसागी सिरी कुबा मंगल ले बा अदुगा ताई devolved matters सिंचना हाई बा ये regional assembly सिंचना वही salai and neither power sharing economy. These assemblies, though operate in their respective jurisdiction, are circumscribed by the central parliament, which can limit, enhance, or abolish their powers and functions. Otherwise, high assemblies in my magi jurisdiction da magi wayan danga wayan economy salai and labor by the su maxi as I central parliament at the Westminster Parliament city makala loinama adugi kayani ko makada bagi level leibani adana haiba central parliament of the United Kingdom sina makoina exercise over powers in si devolved matters in si bagi limit to ngami engkalan ngami nataga muthat pasu ngami adana sumain lai ko adana masi autonomy gi bagi sovereignty gi kai wafam sing ha ta pasu bagi matang right. This, however, does not imply uniformity of law throughout the United Kingdom. Adu masi ha adana ngasi central parliament Westminster Zina Kwalegi can know about authority by United Kingdom the body ni Haragasu Sagi United Kingdom Kumada some another uniform law system of Masanaba Madrid my original aspirations seems to nationalistic aspirations seem to meet down laws and there are significant variations, say, between Scottish and British laws, but they persist because the Westminster Parliament allows them to continue. I think you were being as I Scottish, also British law, and you might have like Canada, Scotland, Sanari Siga, England, Sanariba, ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯆꯠꯅꯩ ꯃꯥꯁꯨ ꯂꯣꯏ ꯈꯦꯠꯅꯕ ꯈꯔ ꯂꯣꯏ ꯂꯩ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯁ꯭ꯀꯣꯠꯂꯦꯟꯒꯤ ꯈꯦꯠꯅꯕ ꯂꯣꯁꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯆꯠꯅꯔꯒ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯀꯩꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯋꯦꯁꯃꯤꯟꯁꯇꯔ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯅ ꯃꯗꯨ ꯌꯥꯕꯒꯤꯅꯦꯕ ꯑꯌꯥꯕ ꯄꯤꯕꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯋꯦꯁꯃꯤꯟꯁꯇꯔ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯅ ꯄꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯅꯦꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯁꯨꯄ꯭ꯔꯤꯃꯦꯁꯤꯗꯨ ꯋꯦꯁꯃꯤꯟꯁꯇꯔꯗ ꯂꯩ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯄꯋꯥꯔꯗꯨ ꯗꯤꯚꯣꯜꯞ ꯇꯧꯕꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯅꯤꯡꯉꯤꯁꯦ ꯃꯣꯗꯦꯜ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯗ ꯌꯨ ꯀꯦ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯃꯊꯪꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯅꯩꯅꯗꯣꯏꯅ ꯌꯨꯅꯥꯏꯇꯦꯗ ꯀꯤꯡꯗꯝꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯁꯤ ꯀꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯃꯑꯣꯡ ꯃꯇꯧꯗꯨ ꯅꯩꯅꯁꯤ United Kingdom is a constitutional monarchy with real power exercised by the government led by the Prime Minister. ꯃꯥꯅ ꯁ꯭ꯋꯥꯏꯒꯤ constitutional monarchy system ꯑꯃ ꯂꯥꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧꯗꯤ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯒ ꯂꯩꯃꯗꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ limited power exercise ꯇꯧꯔꯦ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯥ constitutional monarchy ꯃꯈꯥꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ supreme authority ꯁꯤ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯔꯂꯤꯌꯥꯃꯦꯟꯅ ꯑꯣꯏꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ The parliament is bicameral legislature having the House of Commons and the House of Lords. ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ parliamentary democracy systemꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ unicameral ꯑꯣꯏꯕ bicameral ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯅ ꯂꯩ legislatureꯁꯦ ꯑꯅꯤ ꯊꯣꯛꯅ ꯂꯩꯕꯁꯤ ꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ House of Commons and House of Lords ꯏꯟꯗꯤꯌꯥꯒꯤ ꯀꯟꯇꯦꯛꯁꯇꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯣꯛ ꯁꯚꯥ ꯔꯥꯖ꯭ꯌ ꯁꯚꯥ ꯑꯃ ꯁꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯂꯩꯖꯕ Most of the liberal democracies have bicameral legislature. Sri Lanka and Denmark have unicameral. Sri Lanka and Denmark is unicameral way house amakak lay aduga atay ayamba liberal democracy since bicameral legislation lay habni karigino haiganda institutional checks and balances on the legislative power sagi institutional checks and balances lainana wa sagi Rajya Sabha na ingsenba yaba area Lok Sabha da Lok Sabha na tabak khudimata Rajya Sabha ni ingsenba Rajya Sabha na tabak tabak da Lok Sabha gi check and balances mai tawna sagi magi check and balances lainana neko executive kainodasu legislative kainodasu The upper house in Britain is not an elected body. It comprises of elder statesmen on account of their expertise, religious authority, and traditional and hereditary status. House of Lords is the elected body. The elder statesmen are the maroina makoigi hiram khara da makoigi haisimba adagi mining kai kanoda masang naiba noising aduga magi traditional hereditary status magi naitong kumba hereditary sama susing gi musing duna haidare thamma dugumba House of Lords the House of Lords has less democratic legitimacy than the Commons as the seats are even now largely hereditary ayamana hereditary oiba kanodagi background dagi lakpa House of Lords magi democratic legitimacy di akogi House of Commons na hena layiba House of Commons elected carries the mandate of the British people like the Canadian upper house it is completely non-elected it's non-elected for House of Lords The Parliamentary Acts of 1911 and 1949 brought decisive decline in the powers of the House of Lords as they were deprived of the legal right to amend money bills and their power to delay the legislative bills of the Commons was reduced to 1 year. The Parliamentary Acts of 1911 and 1949 is now House of Lords in Mapanga, ultimately Henamu, Sondahan Kreva. Madina Kamai Sondahan as they were deprived of the legal right to amend money bills. Money bills amend to one magi legal rights House of Lords Piramadu Pedawaba. Pidre their power to delay the legislative bills of the Commons at the House of Commons na wagi Puthoropa Dumba legislative bills House of Lords na wagi Kaida Kai Sori ama Sangi Highland Makoina Madu delay to Raga Havi Paraga Tambagi and was say to Sahi Amadagi and Mother Light Travel. Nanasagi power Kadizama lady later so decisive way to handle the House of Lords. The upper chamber still serves useful functions because it can initiate legislations, must pass the bills, although their rejection can be overruled by the House of Commons, can debate controversial issues as they have more time for it and less to lose in terms of electoral support. House of Lords, Mutanaba power, Kanaba Lake, the power of Mutatri, the House of Lords, Kanaba, at the upper chamber of the British Parliament, UK Parliament upper chamber Sudum, my Kanavadum, Panto Yavani, still serves useful functions. It can initiate legislations. Law and oversee and legislation, House of Lords, power lady, must pass the bills, although their rejection can be overruled by the House of Commons. Nakoina, Bilama, House of Commons na kay tawpasi masi makoigi ayaba makoina ju pass tawdamne ba adubu haiba bill sing asai makoina reject tawba taragasu House of Commons na madu sanaroi haidana overrule tawba ngamagi power di House of Commons di laithokre haibadi higher authorities in the House of Commons, like remember, they carry the mandate of the people as the elected body of the parliament. Adu overall to be the House of Commons like adu still may pass over the traditional more in pass over can debate controversial issues as they have more time for it. I think my to the party Levaki sin bagya makoy sinadaba na maram kan makoy controversial issues in makoy debate tamamagi haiba household laws da may matam maydali matam ngam thangba pa aduba less to lose in terms of electoral support so kayo makoy na higher pa to pa may state da ngai maduna maram wadana miyam na pashaw na gan makoy da board peer or may matam board car have issue by electoral support namagi nang nga wa fam su makoy laite maram di makoy elected body na na elected chamber na unlike the House of Commons. It acts as a space for pluralistic interest groups to lobby and extract concessions from Commons at times. Even high House of Laws, interest groups can lobby tawbam House of Commons masi yanaba extract over concessions extract over House of Commons yanaba yara yani ko tana tinadana kamai tawa yaradagi yana ko mission komdana influence tawdana pressure tawdana minus tawba do space more in House of Laws still is serving useful functions I mind contrary to its proclamation the Labour Party government of Tony Blair did not abolish the upper chamber as there was no final consensus on new forms that it could take Tony Blair gi matamda Labour Party government sina high upper chamber have the House of Lords wagi musalani hayagi ke norma khina laso fi bala ga su amada tangdang ba mayam na yana ba du ba form ma later badagi adu wagi talkidre ba hayagi House of Lords still exists as the upper chamber in the British Parliament. Every bill has to go through a process of approval by the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and the Crown in order to become a statute or an act of Parliament. Bill Kudimak, with British parliamentary systems, the United Kingdom parliamentary systems, the Bill Kudimak, Magi, passed on the process. Magi process the entity of whom. Mekoingi ayaba approval sangi amada House of Commons ki then the House of Lords ki aduga British Crown ni then haiba entity body ahum sigi ayaba si sagi masi power la sakala me be be masika adana mai taw ganda sagi ego parliament na ba mai na semi na traga pa ba session ma ko mai na semi hai especially since the Glorious Revolution of 1688, it has been established that the will of the public reflected through elected members of Commons be carried out and not be silenced by a non-elected monarchy. The Glorious Revolution of 1688, Miyamna vote piraga Mihudwena Kalava Miyamgi mandate and legitimacy carried over House of Commons ki members Singbuna Hena Lumna lower the Maikoigi Waro Ware Maikoigi Kayani Maikoigi Kayani Maikoina Mutor bills in the Simba so Maikoigi legislations Tanglable legislations in the senior society non-elected with Badu monarchy Chilean sorry the Mihaidanas Mina Malakreba. Royal legislation through proclamation ordinances too was done away with during the reign of Edward VI. Edward VI na ruled away Medagi Hokanda Nintaugi Magi royal legislation had in Kauna where we law assembly number proclamation or ordinance get through the Masibu Misana is where I was 60 madam to crab. Aduna Nasigi Hamba pass the power with the parliamentary supremacy, United Kingdom labor parliamentary supremacy systems. Kamain to uno, Aduga Masi Kamai, Horoki, Havagi, Adang Zapai, Nasigi, and Tank of Side Power, Zapai, Kavotore, Memorial Saru. See the Mahata of passing ꯅꯩꯅꯅꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯁꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ ꯄꯨꯝꯅꯃꯛꯄꯨ ꯊꯥꯒꯠꯆꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯊꯋꯥꯏ ꯌꯥꯎꯅ ꯇꯥꯕꯤꯕꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛꯇ